Hey everyone, Mr. here. This is Lupgat from Monza with the Bugatti Veyron Gr. Let's get this started. For this guide, we're going to be using the Bugatti Veyron Gr since Monza requires a power car with incredible top speed, and the Bugatti Veyron Gr answers that request. We have the brake balance at +2 for the time trial since tire wear isn't a thing, but during the race when tire wear is turned on, we can have the brake balance at +3 or all the way down to +5. Your first braking point is before you pass the 150 meter board on the left. Brake as much as you can for a short while and then turn in and ease off of the brakes as you pass the 50 meter board. Make sure that your left wheels do not get on this yellow sausage curb, otherwise you will get an off-track penalty. And with the Bugatti Veyron's all-wheel drive, you can even climb onto the curbs on the left, as that will help the car rotate a bit more. Also, with the Veyron, you want to shift when the shift bar on the bottom of the screen is at around half full. This turn can easily be taken flat out. Just stick to the right side of the track and then brake before the fence on the right ends. Brake as much as you can for a short while, and you do want to be pretty careful here. Turn in and ease off of the brakes when the curb on the right starts, and for this part of the chicane, make sure your right wheels do not touch the orange sausage curb. Start to accelerate, and then make sure your left wheels do not touch the orange sausage curb. Failure to comply will result in an off-track penalty. Now stick to the left side of the track, look for the 50 meter board as that is your next braking point, and you can use half of your braking power and make your way through the turn at half braking power. Slowly ease off of the brakes, nice and careful on the throttle since this car is a little understeery. Then brake before you pass the 50 meter board, brake hard for a short moment, carefully ease off of the brakes while taking advantage of the green stuff on the inside of the turn, and quickly get on the throttle. You can easily take this left turn flat out. Eventually, you want to bring yourself towards the right side of the track, and there are multiple braking points you can use for this turn. Brake as you reach the digital flag on the right, brake hard for a short while, turn in at the 50 meter board and ease off of the brakes, taking advantage of the curbs. You can really take advantage of this inside curb on the right to help the car rotate as you go flat out, thanks to the Bugatti Veyron's all-wheel drive. If you do it right, you can pretty much take that part flat out, and you'll be able to shave off quite a bit of time. Finally, bring yourself towards the left side of the track, look for the 100 meter board and brake just before you pass it. Brake hard for a short moment, carefully ease off of the brakes as you turn in, stay as much as you can towards the inside of the turn, and start to fully accelerate before the curb on the right ends. If you do it right, you won't end up going too wide, and you can even bring yourself to the right to cut the distance. But that's pretty much it for the lap guide. Let's go ahead and take a look at the strategies. For this race, we are doing 10 laps at Monza, which I like to call Punt City, and we're doing this with the Group 4 cars. The tires that we are using are the Racing Hard tires, and those are the only tires given to us. The tire wear rate is a ×6, which means that for most cars, tire wear will not be too much of an issue. Fuel's a ×2, which means that fuel is not a problem, which means that this race is a no-stop race. One thing is for sure, do not use the front-wheel drive cars because their tire wear is going to be too poor to be able to last all 10 laps. You can use the all-wheel drive cars like the Bugatti Veyron, but you do need to do a little bit of tire saving. And the best ways to do that is to be a little easier on the brakes, brake a little earlier when it's safe and possible, and adjust the brake balance and move the brake balance towards the back of the car. As we go through turn 1, we're going to see if people are behaving, and for the most part, yes, except someone did go off. Never mind. Okay, I guess we're not behaving. But anyways, for all-wheel drive cars, adjust the brake balance and just try to brake a little earlier when it's possible. And this will apply a bit less to the front engine rear-wheel drive cars and the mid-engine rear-wheel drive cars, because for the most part they're a little better the tire wear compared to the all-wheel drive cars like the Bugatti Veyron. And at the start of the race, your tires are pretty cold, so you do need to brake a little earlier than usual, and as you wait for your tires to warm up. And before I move on, for the brake balance on the Bugatti Veyron, you can have it at +3, but if you need to save a bit more of the front tires from getting worn out too fast, you can move it to +4 or even +5. And once again, this is for the Bugatti Veyron during the race. Whenever you're under someone's slipstream, do make sure that you brake a little earlier than usual, because you're going to be going faster than usual under someone's slipstream. So you're going to be reaching higher top speeds, which means that you need a larger braking distance. And the slipstream range between yourself and the car in front of you is 3/4 of a second. So whenever you're 0.750 seconds or less between yourself and the car in front of you, you're under the slipstream range, which you should be noticing whenever you're under it. You'll hear less of the wind, and your car will start to accelerate a little faster and reach higher top speeds. And once again, especially for turn 1, brake a little earlier than usual whenever you're under someone's slipstream. And in a moment, I'm going to show something that you might end up seeing in your race, which is going to be called bump drafting. So this is when you take advantage of someone's slipstream and you go a little faster, and then you're going to give the car in front of you a bump. They go faster, you're still under the slipstream, then you go faster, you give them a bump, rinse and repeat. And this is going to be a way of working with other cars to break away from those behind you and to catch up with those in front of you. So right now you're about to see me do the bump draft to the car in front of us, who's in a Peugeot RCZ, which is a front-wheel drive car, and we're going to go back to him in a bit. So we just gave him a bump draft, so he's going a little faster, and I would give him a bump draft again, but we are just about to approach a breaking point, which means that I'm going to back out of it. If you're going to engage a bump draft, do be careful, because you want to make sure that you're not bump drafting anyone just as you're about to reach a breaking point, because at that point it's going to be considered a punt. So I give the bump draft again to the car in front of me, and I get really close to the car in front, but we're just about to approach a breaking point, so I back out of it. I just lift off our throttle, brake a little earlier than usual. And this is why you don't want to use a front-wheel drive car like the Peugeot RCZ. His tires are already starting to wear out because he's starting to struggle through the turns. Which means that pretty much everyone who's not in a front-wheel drive car is going to be able to take advantage of him. Speaking of cars, so as I mentioned right now, do not use a front-wheel drive car. The tire wear is too poor to last all 10 laps. The Bugatti Veyron is going to be one of the top picks because of its high top speed, and the tire wear is manageable. You just want to be a little easier on the brakes and adjust the brake balance, move it towards the rear of the car. And another potentially good car is going to be the McLaren 650S, which is the car that is in front of us. So in the first half of the race, it's not going to be the greatest car because it doesn't have the highest top speed, but it does have pretty good tire wear, so it'll be good in the long run. So you'll be able to catch any Veyrons or other all-wheel drive cars that have been a little too careless on their tires. Other potential cars include the Jaguar F-Type and the Aston Martin V8 Vantage, and those are just a couple of the potential cars that I have seen so far. And right now, I couldn't catch up to the McLaren because my tire wear wasn't too good and his tire wear was much better than mine. So pretty much, if you're in a car like the Bugatti Veyron, your goal is to get the heck away from everyone else, break the slipstream as soon as you can, and build up as big of a gap as you can, because once the tire wear starts to kick in, you're going to slowly start to become a sitting duck. If you're not in a Veyron or a Nissan GTR and you're in a car like the Jaguar F-Type or the McLaren 650S, your goal is to pretty much stick in the slipstream of the leading cars, especially if those cars happen to be the Bugatti Veyron. So you want to try to keep up with them, try to go as fast as you can because your car is going to be better on the tire wear. So towards the end of the race, you'll be able to easily overwhelm them, especially as you go through some of the twistier parts of the track. And let's go ahead and show places to overtake, which there's plenty. The main straight is the best place to get an overtake done, especially with the use of the slipstream. You can get some really easy overtakes done and barely even have to put in any effort yourself. Then the next place to overtake is going to be towards the second chicane. Once again, you can use the slipstream to try to get past the car that you're trying to pass. And hopefully you can get ahead of them before you push the breaking point so you don't end up losing too much time from battling. And after this chicane, it's going to be a bit more of a single file line. So through this first right turn, you don't want to go for an overtake. Stay in a single file line, especially for this part. Do not go for an overtake unless if the car in front of you messes up and ends up making lots of contact with the gravel trap. Now this part right here, I wouldn't suggest going for an overtake unless if they're serving a penalty, which we just passed. The penalty serving zone is on this part of the track, which we passed not long ago. You can go for the pass if they serve the penalty, but other than that, don't go for the pass, just wait it out because you have this part over here, which is another good spot to get an overtake done. And especially when it's towards the final few laps, you can try to get the overtake done, or you can just keep waiting it out until you reach the main straight. But that is pretty much it for this guide. Once again, this is a zero stop race. Keep an eye on your tires, especially if you're using all-wheel drive cars like the Bugatti Veyron. Be a little easier on the brakes whenever it's safe and possible, and move the brake balance towards the back of the car. Do not use a four-wheel drive car. And other potential cars can include the Aston Martin V8 Vantage, the Jaguar F-Type, and the McLaren 650S. And those are just a couple of the potential power cars that are viable here. But anyways, that's all from me. I'm going to go ahead and sign off now. So this is Miss MCA wishing you a good race, and I'll see you in the next video.